Hello everyone, welcome to my new video. This is Chibiboa speaking, and today I'm gonna explain you how to optimize your Windows installation using NTLite. I will try to make this as comprehensive as possible. I've made some videos in the past which I have unlisted because I have new informations and better techniques, more stable, to have a pleasant experience with Windows. Um, I will be using Windows and IoT Enterprise LTSC, which is already prepared here on my desktop. So I have this as a folder, but usually you download this as ISO, which is like so. You just need to do a right click with 7-zip and you extract it to a folder, and then you work on that folder. Never work directly on ISOs because ISOs are read-only, and then you will be working in working in cache only, and that's not what we want. Just need to have folder ready to be used on the desktop here, for example, in my situation. We also need an auto unattended file, which I already made. I prepared it. And we also need an editions configuration. This is very important for laptops because if you don't have this file, and you attempt to install IoT Enterprise LTSC, the installer will say that there are no images available, which is a problem for laptops because the Windows installation tries to get the key pre-installed with the motherboard, and if there is one, which usually is the case with laptops, then it will say that no images are available because the key is either for Home or Pro, and that edition is not available on the ISO. So that's something that you need to know. Earlier in my earlier videos, I told that the reason for that was because you didn't disable secure boot, but that was not the case. It was just because you needed a configuration to prevent. If we look at the configuration, we have edition ID, which is blank, retail, and volume licensing in order to show the settings in the installation settings in the installer at the very first step of the installation, which is forced with my auto unattend, which looks like this. When you see here image index, in my case it's set to 0. This is done on purpose. Normally you would have set this to 1 if you only have one image, or 6 if you're using the retail Windows ISO, because professional is on 6. But I set this on 0 every time, whatever the ISO I'm using, because I want the installer to force to show the installation edition, so that you know which edition you are installing, either Pro, LTSC, whatever. If you put this to 0, you will not get errors, and we'll just show you the value that you can select. In my case, it will only be one IoT LTSC, but if you have an ISO with multiple editions, then something like this could be useful. Also, if you only have one edition, you are sure which edition you are installing because it's shown to you, even if it's only one. All right, so that's for the English Windows versions. If you're using, for example, a French edition or a Dutch edition or German edition, you need to change these things here, ENUS to um, whatever language that you need. You can do this with Copilot from Microsoft. Um, you tell them, this is my auto annotate for my English installation. I would like this to be converted into the French one, and he will do this very fine. You just need to check if he puts the value to 1 again, because 0 to Microsoft, or at least to Copilot, is not really recognized, but it works. So put it back to 0 then. If you're using the auto unattend on an ARM 64 CPU installation, then you need to change this from AMD 64 to ARM 64. Again, Copilot can do this for you. I think I also have in my library the ARM version, so that's for ARM. You see ARM 64, ARM 64. So if you're using ARM, which is useful for either parallels on macOS or Copilot Plus PCs, you can use NTLite to make the Windows installation for ARM as perfect as you want, disabling recall if you want, because on ARM recall is actually active. At least on Copilot Plus PCs, not on Parallels virtualization, at least not for me. But yes, that's something that you need to know. ARM 64 if you're using ARM, and if you're using another language, be sure to change these to the correct ones. And don't forget the Windows PE, because otherwise you will have problems with the installation. It will not take into consideration the auto unattend. So you need to make sure that you change the values into the correct one. FR, or NL, NL, something like that, whichever is useful to you. So that's my auto unattend for this video. I will make the ISO that I will also publish if you wish to use my ISO without putting the time into making it. I have no problems with that. I will host it on my server. Well, these will be the values that will be into the ISO. So you will see the manufacturers from Microsoft, model Windows, and if you wish to change this, you just need to change the auto unattend, make a new ISO, or if it's on a USB, then just change the auto unattend, change the values here. But be careful. Sometimes you can put space here, for example, for your organization or the owner, but you cannot put space into the computer name. So in this case, the computer name, where is it? Here. Computer name is Windows. You cannot put Windows System, for example, because the computer name spaces are not supported in computer names. All right, so that's the auto unattend section. I will put these files into the unmodified. This is an unmodified installation. You see 1 April 2024. That's from the ISO. And the auto unattend must come here. And in sources, we need to put the ei.cfg. And that's it. Now we are ready to work. On this image, I'm using the build number 2600.1, which is the very first release to manufacturer's version of the ISO, which I like because they don't take a lot of space. They take 3.7 gigabytes at default, so without any modifications baked in or apps added, Windows Store or anything added. It's very lightweight, and it allows me to have an ISO which is less than 4.7 billion bytes to fit on a DVD. Because I don't have a lot of computers that use a DVD to install Windows, but when I need to install Windows on a computer, whichever it is, I can use a DVD for legacy purposes. Which, by the way, when you use Hyper-V, you use DVD emulation to load the ISO. So I assume that DVD is like the golden standard for installing Windows, because it's probably recognized by a lot of different computers. But when you're using a USB, you can also integrate updates if you want. I personally don't. I just let Windows Updates do its thing automatically. Because, for example, I removed the Windows Defender protection database. And if you do that with the modern version of Windows, I mean the modern updates, not the very first one, then you will no longer have access to those settings. So I believe that Microsoft saw my last videos and they decided to put some protections into there. So I just used the 2600.1 image and I cramp everything into that, and I just let the update process do its thing. All right. Okay, so we have our unmodified Windows here, and we'll start working on it with NTLite. I have two presets ready to be used. Because I always process the TPM and RAM section of the Windows installation before doing anything else, so that I'm sure the image is processed cleanly. So we will load select a folder, and we will see all those editions. We don't need Enterprise LTSC, and we also do not need the subscription version. We just need IoT Enterprise S. And I will mount the main system because I want to put the RAM and TPM, not RPM, um, settings into all the editions, including the recovery environment of Windows itself, in order to be sure that we don't have problems. Well, legacy computers don't have problems when updating to the latest updates or installing Windows without having to put external like Rufus files which add some scripts in order to achieve the same thing. And for the boot Vim, also forcing to load the old installer because since 24H2 we have a new one, and the new one is less compatible with scripting, at least at current time. It will probably improve later on, but for the moment, we're still using the old installer instead. And I also recommend you doing that. So we go to the settings here and apply. We just want to apply the settings and nothing else into um, all the editions, all four editions. As you can see here, the setup bootwim. So you have bootwim Windows PE, which we only put the RAM and TPM secure boot settings into them, which is the same for the other ones, including the main system. But we also put a third setting for the setup to actually boot the legacy setup. And that's the only thing that we need to do on these editions, and anything else is to be processed on the main image without touching anything else in order to make sure that we don't have problems when updating or installing Windows. This is very important, especially for the recovery environment, and not actually needed to put all the settings and component removal into the other editions, because when Windows is installed, it's there, and the settings that you put on the main system are the ones that actually matter. All right, so that's about it. We don't make an ISO yet, of course, and we just process the image. And after that, I will integrate the servicing stack. I should probably have done this with the settings, but that's okay. I'll go a little bit slower so that you can too, and understand a little bit better why I put um, X or Y thing into the image. I will integrate the servicing stack. I don't think it's actually needed to integrate it, but I just do it because I can, I guess. But I want to ensure the ability to update the system later on, not in 2025, but maybe 2 years on. If we remain with the original servicing stack, we might maybe have problems. Because why I'm saying this, it's because when I download the latest updates in MSU format, which is like 3.2 gigabytes, and I try to run it on the very first edition, it cannot update the system because it does not have the checkpoint update, which is 1742, 2600.1742. So you see here, that's the very first version. So 1742 is the checkpoint version. And the checkpoint version has some libraries, I suppose, which allows the use of MSU files to update to the latest systems. But when you use Windows Update, it will download the latest one and also the checkpoint update files and install everything in one go. So that's why I also say that it's not really needed to put updates into your ISO, unless of course you're installing Windows on hundreds or thousands of computers and don't want to update these computers after the fact on device that would use unnecessary internet. But if you're using a Windows, if you're using an ISO, a golden ISO, if I may say, to install Windows onto I don't know, friends' computers, customers' computers even, and have enough bandwidth or your internet is just fast enough in order to use Windows updates to update the system after the fact, well, I would prefer to do that for these circumstances. It's also better for, as I said in the beginning, when you remove the database for Windows Defender in the newest updates, so like 6500, whatever it is. 6584 is the latest update at the moment. You don't have the settings. Even if you leave the DLL, like I will show you when that's completed, even if you leave the DLL, you will not have settings. So in this situation, it won't be the case in Windows 12, because Windows 12 will have that from the very first build as well. So, but for now, I can use this trick in order to remove the database, which will rebuild itself using Windows updates anyway. But it gives enough time if you want to use some scripts that could give a false positive for antiviruses. It's just for that purpose, and it's just easier for, at least for me, when deploying computers after the configuration has been completed, even though I don't necessarily have viruses, but you never know. It's just good practice for the deployment after the fact. Windows Defender, at least the core dependencies will load. And if you want to use a real-time protection and stuff, well, then you have to change the setting in group policy and then use Windows Defender to your liking. All right, so the settings have been put into the images. I will now open the install Vim, and I want to go to Program Data, Microsoft with Defender. We select everything except the DLL, we delete it, and we have removed the whole database of Defender, which is important if you don't want to be bothered by Defender when you configure or have configured the computer by installing this iteration of Windows. I also have to go to Windows in my situation into Web, and I will copy this folder here. So we delete this one because I want my custom backgrounds. So we remove the wallpaper from here and we put mine in there. You can also do it with NTLite, but I prefer to do it that way because I have full control onto the files. It's easier for me anyway, because some files, for example, if I can find it, image 100, where is it? Well, 0 and 19 are the default images, but sometimes you have image 100, which is the default one, and I don't want the default one. So I will change this real quick. Image 100. Remove this one. And we put the image that you want to have. In my case, this blue made from Apple during the first MacBook Pros. It was one of those images, and I very much like it. So the file has been replaced. In 4K, you have other images. And these images need to be replaced as well, because otherwise you don't have this image or the image that you want, but you have the 4K version of the Windows default one, and I don't want that. So I put this one into there. And I will also replace the other one. Image 0. There we go. And I think that's it for the images. The themes we don't need to touch. I don't use themes anyway, but we don't need to touch. Okay, looks good to me. These can be removed. Maybe not this one. Okay, here we go. We have our images. Now we need to put files. I know where I'm going, so I need to put files into the directories. All of these into users. You can also do it with the NTLite temporary mount, but after you have exported Windows ISO, I mean Vim once via NTLite, you can write on it. So I need all these files for either installing Chocolatey or putting those files into AppData or putting those files on the desktop. NTLite very important to install a lot of dependencies, Python, uh, Java, and whatnot. But I will demonstrate this after the fact. The ISO has been prepared, let's say that way. And we can start mounting it again with NTLite. And there I will put my group policy using the temp mount instead of the 7-zip. Can also do it with 7-zip, but I will use the temp mount in order to show both ways. But in this situation here, I will integrate the servicing stack, as I said, before doing anything else. Working like this in little steps allows you to be very exact in what you do and take a lot less time by doing mistakes over the long run. You just do things little step by little step, and we add, in this case, the package which is in NTLite in my cache. So that's the servicing stat of build 2650/74. It's only 20 megabytes. And we apply this into every edition. So update in the boot Wims as well. All right, that's good. And we will also integrate the group policy before working on the image. So I copy from my Windows System 32 group policy. Here it is. We go into NTLite temporary mount, which is in AppData local temp here. Windows System 32 group policy, and we paste it. And after this, I don't need to view hidden files anymore. Users public. Let's hide this. No idea if it's hidden after installing, but I don't like to see useless folders, so I hide them. So in user, we will create a user like here. Not like me, because my computer is configured differently. I mean, the auto and Unattend is slightly different. So I have another username, but we will create user, and all these files will be on the user directory, either in the app data or the desktop. Not this one. This one will just be installed and then removed after the installation of Windows. NTLite strapped is all these dependencies that you can think of. And we have Office, which is generally not pre-cracked. You just install this and you have Office LTSC. You just need to have a key and start all back with the settings that I will include with the registry. All right, so we integrate the servicing stack. And after this, we will be ready to work on the main image. And I will also show you how to make a proper preset after you finished your experimentations, I would say. Um, by applying on this image. When you apply all the settings on the image, minus the TPM because I already did them, it creates a new automatically created preset, and you can modify it, and you just give another name, you do some tweaking, and you have a preset that you have handmade, if I may say it like that. All right, so the servicing stack updates is relatively fast to integrate, so it shouldn't take a lot of time. Now that I think of it, I need to integrate drivers as well in this situation because I want to make my Windows installation compatible with Proxmox, Red Hat's virtualization machines or software hypervisors. And to do that, you need to integrate the drivers for those. So I will integrate the drivers also on those 4 editions so that we don't have problems, especially when updating or needing the recovery environment on Proxmox devices that it cannot see the drives and then not load it. So this is also something that you can do, especially on older computers, because I have an older computer um, with Haswell 4000 series, an i5, and the driver for the SATA. I, I think it's SATA or just generic driver recognition are not installed into the latest editions of 24H2, so you cannot install it on those devices unless, of course, you integrate the drivers, which can be done by NTLite, by the way, with the driver section by importing the drivers present on the system because the system works, has been updated. You have done the drivers and stuff. And with doing that, you can integrate those specific needed drivers into the setup or the boot Vim um, section of your Windows ISO. So if you have a problem with loading a modern version of Windows onto older systems, even if you disabled TPM and stuff, and you cannot see any drives because you don't have the drivers embedded, and Windows removed the older drivers that they made for those with 24H2, then you have to integrate the drivers yourself into the boot Vim and probably everything else if you want to be confident um, about your system not having problems with booting up or seeing specific drives. Something that's worth mentioning. Here we go. So on my desktop, I will just check the size. 371. Okay, that's good. but we can do better, of course, which we will get into quite fast. I don't know if I do it now or if I just do the drivers. So we probably just do just the drivers, just in order to be clean into the process, even if it takes a little bit more time. But at least everything will be very clear for everyone by going slower and showing things in steps instead of doing everything at all at once, which is also possible, but except for the settings. In settings, you have to do it first the boot vim and then everything else, because otherwise you might encounter problems. Okay, so I don't need this one. Drivers. Import from the host. What do we need? We need everything here removed. Apple, we don't need this one, that's a special driver. These drivers can be useful if you want to use your Apple device to put wired in a wired state to have internet, because sometimes you don't have a Wi-Fi driver and you need internet to download the drivers. So at least with this, maybe after installing iTunes as well, but with this you can connect to the internet. And we also need these removed. So we have Apple for internet, and then we have QEMU, Red Hat, Samsung. We don't need TeamViewer, and we, strictly speaking, we don't really need Xbox, but I will leave it in there. It doesn't really matter. But by doing these drivers, in my case, that's a good baseline before importing drivers for other devices when you need to actually make an ISO for a specific device, starting with the ISO that you are making today, or in my case that I am making, and you apply all the drivers again into all the editions and you process it. All right, the image is almost completed. So as you can see, it took a few minutes, which I cut in the video just for convenience. But it took a few minutes to integrate all those drivers into all those editions. But once it's done, it's done. And that's the last thing that I needed to do before actually working onto the image itself with NTLite and go into the proper NTLite stuff that everyone is probably waiting for. But that's how you do it properly, step by step. And also you can make backups if you want. For example, when you integrate all the drivers, like I have done here, you can, for example, take a driver because that was the stage just before you started working on the image, adding stuff. So that's something that you can do. All right. So we remove the automatic XML that was created. These images have been processed. We don't need to process them anymore. And now we can work on the main image itself and put the extra apps scripts and component removal that we wish to have. And after we have processed the main image, we are then ready to make our custom made preset. Because at this stage, I will put every setting in one go because I have already prepared everything else. I've set a good baseline. Now I can do it. I can do everything in one step, which obviously takes the most time as well. But we have our image loaded and we can start working. So bootwim is done. We need to put the standard refined temporary name. It has to become standard. And we have Chocolatey that will be installed, GP update that will be forced, so the group policy that we have already integrated into the temp mounts earlier in system32 group policy. We will move the user floor files, so that's the main directory, user floor files, which is the app data of the browser with the extensions and everything. And we move that onto app data. We move everything present in users, to user desktop. So that's after logon, so the user is created, and it will move Office 2024 7-zip in case you need it. You don't have internet and you need 7-zip. Start all back, NTLite, and auto logon, because the auto unattend will auto logon, but if you put a new password or put a password at all, the auto logon will no longer work and you will always have an error. So you just need to have the autologon to disable the autologin after installing Windows. But I will show this when we have made our ISO. Then we remove the Chocolatey after it was installed. This is not important for IoT LTSC, but it is important for the regular enterprise LTSC editions, because the IoT LTSC only has um, it has only one version, language I mean. So if you go to download Windows, you see LTSC, IoT LTSC 2024 only in English. But if you have the regular enterprise LTSC, which is 1742 by the way, um, you have the different languages system-wide. So for example, in the French ISO that I will make, and I will also make a video for that in French, I will download the French ISO and I will put those commands here in order to first uninstall the product key and then install the generic product key for IoT LTSC. But since we are already using the IoT LTSC, in this case, we don't need these two values, so I can remove them. But it will be useful for localized versions of Windows. For the components, I need to add something. We remove the backup because this will grant me or us 200 or 250 megabytes, and that's quite important if you want to make a DVD, for example, and cramp some installers and drivers in there. It doesn't prevent Windows from updating. I have tested it and I will test it again after making the ISO. It's just a backup. You don't really need to worry about that. As for the other applications, I remove the cache. So the backup, I remove Edge Chromium update, WebView, and the FOD setup, which doesn't exist on 2600.1, so it doesn't really matter if you do it now, but it's in my profile. We have the post setup, that's good, and now we go to the registry, and we can add into my Windows deployment kit. We can add all the registry files that I have here in order to enhance Windows a little bit more, even if some of them may be redundant with the setting panel that we have here. We also have import to the image, maximum performance. We have the power plants, which was not present when I first made a video at the time, but now it is. So I will remove everything except balanced. I keep balanced because otherwise it might pose problems when you want to import power profiles and stuff. So just keep balanced, but you just activate by default maximum performance. I mean, it's mine. It can still enter sleep and stuff, but it cannot enter automatically into sleep. So that's it says provides ultimate performance and limits energy saving settings, and sleep must be triggered manually. Closing the lid of the laptop or on a laptop won't make the computer enter sleep in this mode. It has the same GUI ID that is present in my group policy, so it will be activated, and balanced is just there for compatibility purposes. And that's it for the registry section. Now for updates, we need to add some stuff. We need to add Windows extensions. We need to add all these video extensions, and we also need to add the Windows Store, the game bar, also for compatibility purposes, and the web experience pack just for these extensions to work properly, I suppose. Doesn't take a lot of space, so I just include them. That's it for the updates. We don't need to add Vimic because on the very first build and the checkpoint build, you have Vimic, so it's good for deployments in enterprise environments, but it gets deleted automatically after updating Windows. When you've done that, you can reintegrate Vimic if you want on a live system or on an updated ISO by putting the Vimic files and deleting the scheduled task, the FOD, which is not here because it's not present. It was added later on. The FOD scheduled task designed to remove Vimic. As for the features, I enable pretty much anything needed for Hyper-V, hypervisor and stuff. And for the settings, let's go through them. These settings have been optimized to allow secure boot and not pose problems in certain games. For example, my last ISO made my Escape from Tarkov game crash, which was fixed by looking at these settings. So, which is also one of the reasons that I'm making a new video, by the way, to really make clear that this version of the ISO is very stable. The other one was also stable, but this one is really ironclad stable and support for secure boot and everything. If we can verify, confirm secure boot UEFI, it's true, and before it was false, even if my secure boot was active. All of these little issues have been fixed. The updates will be installed automatically at 6 a.m. And this has been configured with the group policy. Windows Store install updates automatically. I'm not sure it actually does it, but it's set on automatic. I will not go through every setting, but maybe the important ones. But you can see, just like me, which setting I have enabled or disabled or let on default, because some settings need to be left on default to have a pleasant experience with Windows. Don't put everything on disabled just for the sake of it. Otherwise, you might have issues. If you put these two onto disabled, Defender might give you a false positive, so I just leave them on default. It's enabled anyway since 24H2. You just need to click on those settings at least once to disable them in actuality. Only these four can be put on disabled. These two settings might be quite important for secure boot, so I let these enabled. These might also be one of the reasons that my game crashed. I'm not sure because these settings were also enabled. Could be a mix of the two, so I just put these two on enabled and these on default. For the task, I just remove everything, that's okay. Paging file is 10 gigs, whatever computer installing it on. Otherwise, if you install Windows on 64 gigabyte hosts, you have huge amounts of page files and it eats too much space. But you still need some page files in order to prevent crashing if or when your RAM is full. So just put them on 10 gigs and that's it. Ready boost disabled. Remote desktop is enabled, but only for LAN. So if you deploy this image into a connected computer, Windows Cloud computer, using Proxmox, for example, which is what I do, you won't have issues with brute forcing, because at the base level of the Windows installation, you need to be on the same LAN to use remote desktop. Okay, nothing to say here. Virtual-based security is also a component for secure boot, so I'll leave it on default because you don't have enabled, you just have disabled, so I'll leave this on default. The Windows recovery, I'll let the Windows recovery just in case it is needed. I know it takes some space, but I just leave it for compatibility purposes and make sure that Windows works correctly. You have your usual settings here, shows most used apps, new tips, shortcuts, disabled. Copilot is disabled, so that's not really useful at the time of making the video, of course, for x64 CPUs, but on ARM computers this might be useful, because Microsoft Copilot Plus PCs, it will then disable Copilot Plus. These are all either security settings or quality of life. We still have the clipboard history, which I found to be quite important to have. And some things are still on default, because otherwise you have weird shenanigans. Allow location services. It's actually nice for Windows, Google Maps or something, to have your actual settings. If you want to disable this for privacy purposes, make sure that you put this on disabled. Fast startup is disabled. Hibernation is disabled. BitLocker, automatic BitLocker is also disabled. These settings I didn't really touch. NTLite crash? No. Okay. I clicked too much. Okay, very good. It's lagging. NTLite is a little bit lagging though, because of those settings that I opened and closed. But that's about it. So crash control, just a kernel memory dump, auto reboots. I would like to have it on disabled, but if you do that and it actually crashes and you're not around, and for example you have a team viewer installed on it, well, you won't be able to fix it or fix the problems remotely. So I put this on enabled, but just to have the kernel memory dump for in order to prevent having lots of space when you have lots of space loss when you have a BSOD. And that's about it. That's the only baseline core things that I need to integrate. The drivers have already been integrated, but you can also integrate any driver that you want at this stage. So we have already integrated the vital drivers. And if I want, for example, to include my NVIDIA display, I can do this, but I won't, because I want a lightweight image. And we make sure that we apply this only on the install Vim. All these features, components, only these. That looks good to me. Configure settings, power plans, registry, post setup, all those scripts. All right, that's good. And we can actually make an ISO because we have made everything else was already processed. ISO, we put that on the desktop, we save it, we put a name like Windows, click on OK, and we process the image. I will speed this up, of course, and I will catch you when it's finished. All right, welcome back. We have made our Vim and are processing the ISO. I will now verify its size, 4375, that's good. That's what I expected, something like that. And it's under 4.7, I think that's billion. Yeah, 4.7 billion bytes, which is the maximum size for a DVD. With all the files that we have integrated. Just check the auto and attend very fast. Yeah, looks good to me. And we can now test the image that we have just created. And if everything went well, we shouldn't have issues whatsoever. So Hyper-V, my VM here, and we boot from the ISO that we just made. Secure boot is enabled in this case. And that looks good to me. We can connect to it. Great. So index 0 will show this panel so that you know which edition that you are installing in this case. We click on next and we have the second step. I will, I will not just click on next, but you can, of course, if you're just installing for a computer that will just have Windows, but I will make the partitions myself because I have a very structured vision of Windows partitions. So Shift F10 and you go to this part. So this 0, I think it's this. You should always verify. So list disk 0, that's good. Create bar EFI, size is 256 megabytes. Format FS is FAT32. Create bar primary size. 120 gigabytes times 1024 times, I want a ratio of 70%, 86,016 plus 8, so that would be 24. Create bar primary, great. Exit, refresh, and I have all my partitions. We can format. We format this one as well, and we delete this partition. This partition is the one that will have Windows. This one is just there in case I need to image Windows to deploy later on another computer. That's the reason why I did this on this virtual machine. Otherwise, I do this to have user data partition on the same drive as Windows, and I can just format Windows without having to touch the user data, which is desktop documents and everything else. And I have my library for the other stuff, for my games and stuff. So that's how I do my systems. And we click on next. I think internet is disabled. Yes, that's good. And now we wait. I will put this in real time to see how fast it is. And after that, we will boot into Windows. But while we do that, let's do the hashes of this ISO. We can show all the hashes because the ISO that I made today on video will be the one that you will be able to download in the video. If there's an update, if an update is needed, then I will make new links. But at least you have the hashes, which are calculated on my computer using PowerShell, that are being generated, and I will put this everything neatly into a zip file alongside the ISO. There will be two downloads, either only the ISO or a zip file with the hashes within. Okay, so setup has completed. We can close and it reboots. It will process the auto unattend section and it will apply the values that we want. If you mess up with the recovery partition, sometimes, depending on what you mess up with, this gets stuck. So it doesn't load because the recovery is corrupted. That's why I only applied the settings onto the main system and not any other partition, either recovery or bootwim, just the main system, which is what matters anyway. You don't need to touch anything else except for the RAM and TPM if this is something that matters to you, or if the computer that you're installing it on is old and doesn't have a TPM. Also, I'm making an update to my ISO in this video because, well, my older one didn't have a lot of problems, almost none, only with Escape from Tarkov and the secure boot status. Games are, well, developers are starting to force secure boot onto the new games like Battlefield 6 or Call of Duty 7. So it's important to have a Windows that actually supports secure boot. So if I go into my into the system in security, you will also see here, open Windows Security, that the secure boot is on. So games requiring secure boot should work without any problems using my ISO that I'm making today. And I am IoT LTSC, so it doesn't matter which edition that you are on, either Home or Enterprise, Enterprise LTSC, Professional. Windows is Windows, but know that Windows Home has the most amount of restrictions, and IoT LTSC has the least amount of restrictions and has support up to 2034. So that's still 9 years at the time of making the video, still 9 years of support for IoT LTSC. Until further notice, could be extended, we never know, but at least you have secure boot and long-term support. All right, so we have our Windows that has been prepared, configured, rebooted automatically once to apply all the dark mode stuff. We have two apps pre-pinned, which you can unpin. And we have everything that we need. So if you go to Windows Security, we don't have internet and we don't have any updates. Still detect secure boot, so secure boot is recognized, no problems. Manage settings. You disable the tamper cloud delivery protection. It's possible that the real-time protection goes on for a moment when the updates are made automatically with Windows updates, but the most important ones to disable are actually here. Off by default, off by default, off by default, off by default, off, off, off. That's good. We don't need any isolation on the CPU, at least not yet. And that looks good to me. We also need to, if we want, so ms config boot no GUI bootlog 15 seconds. Click on OK. Exit without restarts, and then we also need to change the name of the computer. So let's say NTLite machine. And if I want to do a space, normally it's not supported. See, it's not supported. It needs to be one word. So NTLite machine 007, for example. Next. Always do this before connecting to the internet, so we restart later. We also need to the auto logon is not there. I probably forgot it. So for the purpose of the video, I will just sideload it. I just forgot it. So it's in my my Windows deployment kit. So normally you should have auto logon. So I will fix that into the into NTLite. Auto logon, run as admin, agree, disable, okay, and now we can reboot. Just need to animation effects. I don't like them. All right, so we can reboot. And let's add this file into the Vim, into users. Paste it. Okay, so that's the file actually added. And now we also need to add the directory again, just to change one setting, but that's the rule of the game. It's used by another process, retry. But aside from that not being sideloaded, everything else is there. So if we enable internet now, you shouldn't have any issues, and you can, for example, use NTLite strapped to have a bunch of dependencies. So it will reinstall Microsoft Edge, Java, Python, 7-zip, all the redistribubles for VC, the VC redis, Notepad++, Vistry, WinSCP, QBitTorrent, Git, iTunes. We already have siloed the drivers for iTunes, so now we're just installing the libraries in case we need it. Although it needs internet to download it, but it's there at least. .NET and TeamViewer 15, .NET Core, so interesting stuff to install. So post setup. Oh, it's okay. It's already in there, the auto logon, but the file was just missing. Okay. So that's why we also test it into virtual machines to make sure that it actually works. So we don't need to change anything. We can then overwrite the ISO that we just made. We eject it first. We want to replace it. Process. And if you want to use Chocolatey, for example, to install other applications like Florp, so Choco install Florp. A for everything that Florp needs, because we have also siloed Florp's app data, which contains the extensions, pre-installed extensions, bookmarks, default bookmarks, interesting ones, to get you up to speed, to have a pleasant experience on YouTube, to not have any ads, without having to use DNS, without having to change your DNS, because changing your DNS can have issues with accessing your ISP um, control panel, because the gateway is different. But at least when you do that, you don't have annoyances, internet annoyances, cookie prompts, ads. It's just clean, and I will show you. So it's installing version 12, and it should be just a clean experience, like so. All the extensions are here. You go, for example, to Google, you don't have to click anything. It will just do the cookie stuff automatically, change to English, and you're ready to go. Let's say Donald Trump. I cannot type news. For example, I don't know, CNN, for example, maybe. You see, you didn't see the prompt. It just vanished. What do we also have? Radar.io has also prompts, I believe. Yeah, see, handled automatically. I agree, and you can start browsing. YouTube, pretty much the same thing. Or not, just accept all and you're good to go. And you have some sites, like for example, the MAS site to download Windows and have information on Windows, how it works. A lot of great stuff that you can use. The FAQ, for example, has a lot of interesting stuff. Troubleshooting if you have issues, no issues there. It's just a pleasant experience. If we put this on my native resolution, let's do some inception here. This is the browser that you can expect. You can log in, sync. You're good to go. If you have extensions, for example, you don't need EID Belgium or the Isabel components, you can just remove them and continue onto your day with some um, standard bookmarks which might be useful to you. Everything has been installed. That's great. Let's reboot. Okay, my new ISO has been created, and we will make, just like last time, we will calculate all the hashes for this ISO, and we're back into the virtual machine. Start rollback, for example, install for everyone, and you have a legacy experience. In my case, it looks like this after some configuration, but it's more or less the same thing. Microsoft Edge works fine. I agree. Let's go to Google. It doesn't have any extensions installed. It's just bare bones browser in case you need Donald Trump. In case you need to, in case you have problems with Flop, you can use Edge to the best of your ability to have an extension-free experience. So I leave Edge in for compatibility purposes. So if you download Netflix on the store, for example, Microsoft Store, which is not shown because it's in apps, it's Starterback. Starterback is not showing every application, which is sad, but that's the way of it. But it's in a folder named apps. Microsoft Store. You just do click get updates and everything will be updated. All the dependencies, if any are missing, will be installed automatically. I just include the extensions, and the updates process will do everything that I need. So game bar, Microsoft Store updates even, you are good to go. You don't need Windows Update to do this. I mean, you don't need to go to Windows Update to update the store and everything. Just go to the store and it will update whatever you have included. Embrace what Microsoft offers only if it's mastered like it should. And the very last thing that we need or that we want to do, troubleshoot. It should activate it because I already activated before, but you obviously need a key. But if you formatted your computer which was activated and click on troubleshoot, Windows, just like it should work, will reactivate just fine by clicking troubleshoot. And we're good to go for updates. So you need to know that there are updates, configurations. All updates have been done here, I think. Check for updates. We're good. Okay, Windows updates. And we can start checking for updates. So that's the very first time that the updates will be shown to you, unless you wait 1 hour, because every hour automatically the group policy will check for updates, and at 6 a.m. it will install those updates if you leave your computer on, and it will not bother you with the other tasks that you are doing. And that's about it for the image. You can configure how you see fit. For example, for screenshots, which is here already, I like to go to preferences, destination, and copy to clipboard only. To have, when you do print screen, you just have this and it's on your clipboard. Obviously, you have to turn on clipboard history. It's not turned on. It's available, but not turned on. But you have clipboard history. You have a powerful screenshot taker. You also have the legacy paint. So if you type MS Paint, you have the legacy one, not the new one. And if you do the same for Notepad, it says a new version is available, but you also have the old one, which loads faster than the new one. The new one always need 1 or 2 seconds to load, and then these ones load instantly. It will also install Media Player Classic, but you also have Media Player Legacy, which I recommend starting once just to initialize it, but then use Media Player Classic for everything else. Um, you can install Office Pro, but I won't do it in the video here. But yeah, that's about it. Once you have disabled auto logon, you can delete this if you wish. Loser mgr.msc if you want to change some stuff. So user is the username, full name is Windows, description is Windows, full name, for example, NTLite, the password never expires, and we click on OK. And if you log off and log in again, you don't need to reboot for this. You have a new username, which is NTLite, and you're good to go. Everything works fine. Power. Screen timeout is 30 minutes. No energy savers. We have nicely done, even if we are not worrying about energy recommendations at all. But yeah, there it is. I'll let you explore Windows. I think Windows is a very fine operating system. I don't believe that Linux is the way forward, just because Windows is not configured properly by default. But if you put some NTLite and some time in it, you will have the perfect experience for Windows, in my very honest opinion. Because gaming is not ready for Linux, not at all. They're trying to. There has been some progress, but it's not ready at all. And macOS is actually improving. I believe that macOS should be or could be ready for gaming before Linux is. But Windows is still the king for gaming, no question. That's an unwavering fact. And Windows 24H2 and 25H2 share the same kernel, if you didn't know. So if you're staying on 24H2 LTSC, IoT LTSC, you will have exactly the same performance improvements and functionalities as 25H2. Maybe not for the start menu or whatever they have presented specific to 25H2, but at the core level, at the system level, 25H2 and 24H2 are the same systems. So these cumulative updates, you could just put 26.200 and 65.84. They always share the same builds. The baseline is always the same. So as you can see, Microsoft antivirus was updated just fine. And if you want to do some scans, no problems. If you want to check for updates, no problems. You can use Windows Defender if you wish to. That's so good. But know that my group policy is preventing um, live antiviruses or live protection, whatever it is. Dismiss, dismiss, dismiss. Real-time protection. So that cannot be activated because the group policy is specifically disabling it, and because I disable the settings once, it stays off. But by default, it's on. And when you've done what I've done, you get all green check marks despite having an antivirus completely disabled, but you have green check marks. I will speed this section up for the download and installation of Windows Update. So I just let Windows Updates do its thing. It will not install drivers automatically. We'll just do the Windows side of things, just drivers, and that's it. Maybe show the power CFG. So you have balanced and maximum performance. So balance was kept just to be sure that we don't have issues. And the maximum performance will make sure that it can be used on desktop and laptops, where you can close the lid but still enter sleep. So I have still sleep option here to enter sleep, and it actually works. And if you want to dig into the settings of the power profile, you can use quick CPU, which I use to make this profile. You go to power. Everything is available in my deployment kit. Applications, CPU, quick CPU, power plan management, maximum performance here, and you can see exactly which setting and what value has been put into this profile. And every value that is present in plugged in has been copied into the value on battery. You will not have a banner saying that your battery is low. So when your battery is dead, your computer will shut off. So it's important to know that if you're working on something and your computer has no battery left, you will not be notified. Your computer will keep its maximum available performance to it and will use that. And when your battery is dead, it's dead. It's the computer goes off without the spinning of shutting down and doing everything properly. No, it will be a hard shut off. But if you want, you can enter sleep, but you have to put it manually. It will never go into sleep automatically. The display will go off after 30 minutes, but it will never go into sleep. If you want to change this, you can change it in the power plant settings after, I believe, changing the group policy. Otherwise, you might have issues. I won't test it, but you might have issues. And adapting all the values that you need. If you go to gpedit.msc, all settings, you type specify custom active power plan, and you specify the GUID that you want. If you go to CMD, power CFG.L, you have this power scheme GUID for the power profile that you have. And it will always change if you import a new So if you export this into a .pow and import that into a new computer, it will have another GUID. So you have to check the GUID and then put the correct one on the computer, unless you do with NTLite, because it will take the same GUID and enforce it. But if you're installing manually, then you have to put the correct GUID um, into the group policy. And if you want to disable it, in order to make change, for example, you disable it here, because otherwise there is nothing that you can do. Nothing that you can do. It's all grayed out. So put the computer to sleep never. Um, Balanced allows sleep, no problems. Allows to be modified even. But this one is completely locked. It's locked. You just have the quick settings here, but if you go with the power profile from Quick CPU, you have everything in detail and you can change whatever you need to change. Okay, that's it for the power profile. We have our hashes here, so I'll make a new file here, copy everything, and we put everything in there. All right, desktop. We make a new folder. No, we don't. Hashes. Good. That's the ISO. The hashes. We make an archive with the same name. .7z. There we go. Compression ultra. If we make that neatly for us, we no longer need the folder because the ISO, the final ISO has been made. We can forget this. And this was an overwritten profile, so I cannot, but basically, if you want to clean that preset, you can, for example, remove tweaks section, for example, or the apply options. If you do it properly, you will not have problems. But if you do a mistake, for example, so if I do this, refresh, no problems. But if you make a mistake, for example, remove the preset and save, you have an X. You have an X, and you cannot apply this preset. Okay, delete the preset. The ISO is almost made. The update is now installing. Says downloading, but it's actually installing. It's a visual bug. This is not ARM64 though. Right. No, we don't want to keep this in the editor. This is not ARM64. This is AMD 64. Let's see the space. 396 in the 7Z format. 2427 in regular ISO format. Good. Don't need this anymore. Library, Windows ISO prepared, 24H2. That's the old version, no longer needed. Cut and paste. And that's it. We have our ISOs ready for installation and configuration. Hyper-V works. We have proper names, Windows System, and we just need to wait until the installation has finished. And after that, we show the system, and that's it for optimizing Windows like it should, at least in my view, but I think in view of many people as well. And it fits on a DVD, ready to ready to get the updates, ready to get the drivers. This is as clean as it can go. So we just need to wait for the end of the updates and then we reboot. And with that, the Windows update has been completed. So if we check the build number, we have 2665.84 Windows system, that's good. And everything runs as it should. You have the new setting search here. Updates are all okay. Windows security, all check marks. We are good to go. And if we put this in an enhanced session in order to see how it really looks like on a decent resolution, it looks like this. Very clean after you install all of these, Office, and you are good to go. If I delete everything here, also don't move, or empty. Here we go, put this here, this one here, change the name, computer for example, that was the name before, Windows 7 and stuff. And you are good to go. If you want, for example, I don't know, Xbox for the dependencies and gaming, you download Xbox, you wait when it finishes, and then you open it. This will allow you to install all the dependencies for gaming specifically, aside from the game bar. By clicking on these. And as you can see, everything will be installed for gaming on IoT Enterprise LTSC, and you're good to go for gaming with Xbox if you wish so. You are ready for games with secure boot if your computer has secure boot, of course. You can use BitLocker if you want. Everything is good to go, optimized for gaming and general usage. We can check for updates one last time. And there you go. Windows is updated. All dependencies for Xbox have been installed. You have all encoders, or I mean the extensions for the for AVC, HEIF, and all those things. You're good to go. Computer is ready to be used. Have fun and see you in the next one.